Okay, imagine living in a perfect world where all lives were created equal, despite skin color, religion, gender, or even stage of life. Seems pretty unrealistic in today's world, doesn't it? Well, my name is Claire Conley, and today we'll be talking to you about the need to deem abortion illegal, particularly in the United States, in order to get closer to achieving that ideal world where all life really is created equal. I will be talking to you about the need to deem abortion illegal, particularly in the United States, because life begins at conception, fetuses have futures, and the right to life is an unalienable right, regardless of how far along in the life journey you are. First, I will begin by laying the groundwork for this argument and an example of where the topic stands currently in our country. So, according to Finnemore in the American Journal of Law and Medicine, a court case named Jefferson v. Griffin Spalding County Hospital explains where the topic rests, particularly in the state of Georgia. So, this visualization is talking about this. And according to this case, Jefferson appears to stand for the proposition that fetuses have rights and that attach at viability, and that mothers have a corresponding duty to ensure live births. This court case briefly touches on just one of the many incidents where pregnant women experience very tough decisions when the life of their unborn child is put into question. This court case takes the stance, though, that it shouldn't be the mother's choice at all how the fate of her unborn child ends up, and that the fetus is a life in and of itself. So whether you are 2 days old, 2 years old, or 2 days away from death, your life still has potential. Patrick Ferdinand in the Deakin Law Review adds that human life has intrinsic value during any stage of its development, and the significant potential value of unborn children is largely obscured because of our laws differentiating the value of unborn children during different phases of their development. So, as noted in this resource, it's taken the argument a step further by perhaps suggesting that the question was never really about how far along abortion should be legal. It's about that life begins when life begins, and that there shouldn't be any further discussion. And so this graphic is kind of explaining this here. And so when does this so-called human life potential really begin? Well, according to Life Before Birth listed in Gale Academic, conception is when a new member of the human race begins. And for anyone who may not be quite on board with this whole thing, here are some surprising facts that might grab your attention. So, at just 21 days, the heart is beginning to beat. At 6 weeks, the skeleton is complete. And at 8 weeks, all organs are functioning. And at 20 weeks, the fetus can actually feel pain. So, how can abortion really be justified when life begins at conception, especially when the life isn't simply a clump of cells, as many in today's naive society may believe? So, switching gears a little bit, according to Valentine in the Journal of Development Economics, one of the main concerns is that abortion liberalization may actually increase sex selective abortions. And this was the case in Taiwan, where abortion was liberalized up to the 24th week mark of gestation, and so could easily be combined with sex detection. So, if abortion is legalized, even for 1 to 2 trimesters, there's a chance that people would begin to use abortion to get sex favorable children and begin to terminate their pregnancies if it isn't the outcome they'd hoped for, which would cause a great imbalance in our population, as you can assume. So, once abortion is made illegal, we can all really rest assured that the human life will be spared, basically in all stages of the fetus's life. So I think that before the solutions are dwelled upon, it's very important and valuable to look at what pregnant mothers have to say about the issue. So Hine begins to describe in the Journal of Pain and Symptom Management that parents actually disapproved of professionals suggesting termination of pregnancy. Mothers perceived their unborn children as persons and wanted them to choose their own time of death. So essentially, what these mothers are saying is that they don't want to pick when to terminate their child's life, and that if the child is not in favorable conditions, that child will not survive. So it's important to visualize a scenario like this in real life, although it doesn't represent obviously the whole population, in order to understand what it would be like to have a human growing inside of you and to try to decide what does lie in your hands and what is simply out of your control. So this issue is very obviously clear and relevant in today's society and is kind of a hot topic in the news. But what can we as Americans really do to help our country draw closer to an abortion-free nation? Well, per Vera de Guerra in Public Administration and Regional Development, simply put, the right to life imposes on the state the duty of the state in every possible way to protect human life from any unlawful encroachment and other threats. So this is essentially saying that governments, cities, whatever, all have the same responsibility to protect life as they do people our age, people older than us, and people younger than us. So there's an urgent need for legislation, as can be seen in the evidence when life starts, how abortion is tied with sex selection, and how many real-world women and parents feel about the issue. But by supporting and suggesting legislation, we're helping to protect the rights of potential human life and preserving that unborn child's right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness as all of us know it today. So I think this visual does a really good job of explaining this argument, which is essentially saying that a fetus isn't someone's choice whether or not to terminate. Instead, it's saying that that fetus has the choice of whether or not they are going to survive given their conditions and that they're still valued as a life even though they aren't born yet. So, to wrap it up, we don't obviously live in a perfect world by any means. We should all be able to live in a world where our lives are valued and matter, and we would all want someone looking out for our lives when we were at our most vulnerable and we couldn't speak for ourselves. And so we all have a voice now that we're born, now that we're alive, and it's time for us to start using them in order to protect the unborn who are very vulnerable and obviously can't speak for themselves.